So we have there the larynx. So underneath our pharynx, so our larynx creates sound. So it is essential for our speech. So next, we will go on to our to the lower respiratory tract. So trachea. It is located just below our larynx. Trachea is the main airway of our lungs. So it is known as the windpipe. So it is large, large pipe or a tube, which is goes through our respiratory system. So going to our lungs. So next is the bronchi. So bronchi is a branch of trachea into each lungs and create networks to intricate passages that supplies lungs with air. So our bronchi, so there are two tubes, separating tubes. So one is going to right and one is going to left. So it is also a tube which airs goes deep in our respiratory system. Next is the bronchioles. So what is bronchioles? Yes, Rhea?
Bronchioles are tubes in the lungs which branch off from the larger bronchi that enter each lung.
So bronchioles are the small tubes. So it is the smallest tube which airs past going to the alveoli. So next is the alveoli. So alveoli are tiny air sacs in your lungs that takes up the oxygen you breathe and keep your body going. So it is known as the air sacs, or which airs and the oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. So an exchange of gases. So when we inhale the oxygen, and when we exhale, we release the carbon dioxide on our body. So that is the part of the respiratory system which the the gas exchange happens. So next is the lungs. Together, the lungs form one body's largest organs. They are responsible for providing oxygen to capillaries and exhaling carbon dioxide. So that is the structure of our lungs. Next, the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the main respiratory muscle that contracts and relaxes to allow air into our lungs. So later you will understand how diaphragm works in order for us to inhale or exhale. Next, how does the respiratory system works? Yes, Marlo? How does the respiratory system work? So the respiratory system works together via our nose, going to our nasal passages, which are the nasal cavity, going to our pharynx, larynx, and trachea, going to bronchi, next to bronchioles, going to alveoli. So we inhale oxygen, and when we exhale, we release carbon dioxide. So the respiratory system is a system which is capable for us to be or to survive, because as human being, we need oxygen. So next, the map. So I have here a map for you to understand how the air flows going through our body. So we inhale air through our nose, going to our nasal cavity. Next to the pharynx. So the oxygen going to pharynx, larynx, and later it will goes on to our trachea, so our lower respiratory tract, so our bronchi. Next is the bronchioles, and later to the alveoli, which are composed of tiny air sacs. Okay, what a bunch of grapes. So yesterday I required you to bring a bunch of grades, or if the grades doesn't available in your area, so we will have a lubi-lubi, or you can have the lubi-lubi, or yes, the lubi-lubi, or niyog-niyogan. So for you to answer our activity, you have there the QR code. So you can now scan your activity. So, in your activity, you will identify the parts of the breathing system that are similar to the structure of niyog-niyugan, grapes, or lubi-lubi. So, and create an analogy to remember each part. So, now for you to answer, so take time to answer the activity. Okay. Now, what does each part of the bunch of grape model represents in the relation of the breathing system? So, Marlo,
So,
the main stem, what does it represent? So, our respiratory system.
trachea.
Okay, correct. Next, the small stem. The small
The
stem.
bronchioles.
Okay, the bronchioles. And each grape, what does it represent?
Alveoli.
Okay, correct. So, how will you describe the pathway of oxygen to our to the breathing system? So, yes, Rhea.
So from the nose and mouth, oxygen travels to the trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and then into the alveoli. The other parts of the breathing system will not be able to carry out their corresponding functions, as well as the whole respiratory system will be affected.
So, thank you. So, at this point, we will have the enrichment activity. So, last time, I required you to bring the materials needed for this activity. So, at this point, we will have our activity named the bottle balloon. So, I required you to bring plastic bottle, a balloons, straws, and adhesive. So you can use scotch tapes or glue sticks. So at this time, you may now go to your respective groups. So for you to be guided for this activity, you can have here the QR code. So all you need to do is to scan this code and answer, or you can answer or observe or take down what did you observe on this activity. Okay, I have here the bottle balloon. So these are the models of our lungs. So all you need to do is to observe what are the changes occurred when I pull down and pulled up. So here it goes. So when you pull down, pulled down, pulled up, pull down, pulled up. Okay, what did you observe? Yes. When I pull down,
The balloon expanded.
okay, the balloon expanded. And when I pulled up,
It brings back to its original size.
okay, it brings back to its original size. So that was the movement of our diaphragm. So when our diaphragm contracts, or the analogy is when the balloon is pulled down, so our respiratory or our lungs also expand. When the analogy, when it pulls up, so our diaphragm relaxes, so our lungs also bring back to its original size. So at this point, let's see, or let's have the things that makes our respiratory system vulnerable. So in today's or this current situation, what are the things that makes our respiratory tract vulnerable to any risk of diseases? So anyone? So the breakthrough of this time. So what are that?
The COVID-19.
COVID-19.
Okay. Yes, the COVID-19. So as we know, COVID-19 are making our respiratory system vulnerable to disease. So, I have here the video of how does the COVID-19 affect our respiratory system.
COVID-19 is a respiratory illness caused by a new type of coronavirus. But what is the respiratory system and how is it affected by COVID-19? We spoke to Professor Debbie Bogart, Scottish Senior Clinical Fellow and Honorary Consultant in Paediatric Infectious Diseases. Our respiratory system is a series of organs responsible for taking in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide, also known as something called gas exchange. Professor Bogart told us that when we become infected with COVID-19, it can cause an infection of part of this respiratory system, known as the respiratory tree, which is found in our lungs. The respiratory tree, also called the bronchial tree, is a name given to the branch-like structure in our lungs, which includes the bronchi, right down to the tiny air sacs called alveoli. Professor Bogart goes on to say that when we contract COVID-19, the lining of the respiratory tree typically becomes damaged, irritating the nerves in the lining of the airway and causing that dry cough we've heard about. However, for a small number of people, the infection can cause more severe problems by affecting what's known as gas exchange. Gas exchange happens around the alveoli, those tiny air sacs at the tips of the respiratory tree. Oxygen passes into the blood and carbon dioxide passes from the blood into the alveoli and it's then exhaled. Professor Bogart says that if COVID-19 affects this process, our body becomes less able to take on oxygen and get rid of that carbon dioxide over time, and some people will need a ventilator to help them breathe.
So that video was published by the Physiological Society, an international organization. So when we are infected by the COVID-19, so our lungs are vulnerable to its disease. So it makes us suffer in dry cough. So we will also have a fever, or worse, it will